Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from OurSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, September 10th. We are going to give one final look at Notre Dame versus Northern Illinois. We've looked at the game over and over again, kind of dissected the problems with Notre Dame, kind of analyzed the first two games. That's kind of what I've been doing, Jamie, is trying to look at the first two games in totality, because I think that tells a bigger picture than whether or not Notre Dame had a letdown or whatever it might be against NIU. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about some of the comments from Marcus Freeman's press conference yesterday, some injury updates and things of that nature, and then get to questions and comments in the chat. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, if you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. And as always, links to the podcast are in the description below. And Notre Dame has not restocked their offensive weaponry, but ESQ has restocked their bamboo dress shirts online. So you can want to go to esqclothing.com, and you've seen all the bamboo dress shirts on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. It's made from proprietary fabric that's cooler and softer than cotton. It's the best shirt for any occasion. Go to esqclothing.com and use ISD15 to get 15% off your order. Jamie, on the injury front, Marcus Freeman said yesterday that Jordan Faison is going to be practicing this week. I don't know how much they're going to use him. I don't know what practicing means. Frankly, a lot of his injury updates, I don't really know what to make of them. I would say that Josh Burnham, he says questionable, and Marcus Freeman parlance is probably not going to play, especially the way that he went out. He said he'd been making progress, but I'm not personally counting on him playing in the game. I'm sure Jamie probably feels the same about that, as he's the one who's kind of noted questionable means probably not going to be out there. Jamie, something I wanted to kind of talk about, and I kind of want to get your feelings on this as we go on with this show. I should turn the light on. There we go. Now people can see me. There was a lot of his press conference yesterday was focused on preparation. They were physical in practice. Was that enough? Was that too much? Did they do too much in the week leading up to NIU? Were they tired? Were they worn down? I feel like that's kind of a red herring. I don't know that matters, whether they were or they weren't. Maybe if he had gone softer on them, it would have been a worse performance. I don't know. I just think that I look at the way the offense performed in week one, and then I look at the way the offense performed in week two. That's how they're ready to play right now. That's what it looks like when they're ready to go. They didn't have a very good passing game in the opener. They didn't have a very good passing game in the second game. And like, a lot of the things that happen on offense, we kind of gave it the old Texas A&M grading on the curve. But I think after you look at two games, I think that's kind of what they are. And that's kind of what I expect in the next game as well. There's no reason to believe they're going to come out and be a powerful offense. So I don't see it as any kind of letdown or anything. I just think that's where Notre Dame is right now offensively. Wanted to get your thoughts on where you come out on that.
I mean, it's still a letdown. I don't care what anyone says, like about, how they looked in the first game or, compared to the second game or whatever. Like it's a letdown. Like to be that inefficient, I think is a serious issue. And it is, you do grade it on the curve because, you are they played a different way against Texas A&M, and fine, you had to play that way. And I think it was smart to play that way in order to win. But like, there was still like the bones of what they did in that game that worked for them, they didn't do in this game. Like, particularly, like, obviously, Riley Leonard running the football.
Do you think he's hurt? Do you think he's hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt. He hurt his shoulder in that time. I'm like,
no,
I don't
like
know,
hurt to the point where it's like we're not running him anymore, kind of thing.
Maybe I don't know if like that's I don't know. I mean, I don't know for sure. Obviously, they didn't reveal like he's anything but questionable, and they say he's starting. So you can just kind of take it as is. But like I said on Power, like if he can't run, then you can't play him. Like it's just he can't be just a pocket guy, which is also too like part of the thing with like when Duke, when he hurt his ankle last year and then he couldn't run. It's like, I mean, they didn't have any other good options behind him.
That's kind of hard because like not having a healthy ankle for any quarterback is gonna be not a good thing.
Yeah,
Especially
but
when
you know
you're
what I mean?
finding
Like
them.
for him, it's
I
so
got you. I
obvious
got
that
you.
his
I mean, it's definitely going to make him worse
you can't
for sure.
he wasn't going to be he can't be the factor that he, you take away a big part of his game when you take away his mobility, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, he can't if he can't do that, that's the thing, right? Is like, I mean, Greg, you said it, you predicted before the season that he could rush for 1,000 yards. It's like,
I did.
if you're not going to run him, and he ran 5 times on the opening drive, right? And
Yeah.
then ran 3 times the rest of the game. So those not including sacks, like that, that just totally takes out a big chunk of your offense. And that's the thing too, is that like it is actually, in this sense, it's a lot like that that Marshall game, in the way that I think that the week before, coaches go into the thing with like a plan of saying, hey, we're only going to run them this much in this game because this is a bigger game. I hate that. And I understand the big picture thinking. Don't say it out loud though. Don't say it out loud. Like, don't say it out loud, because you never know if you're going to need it. You never know if you're going to need it. And one thing you can say about this game too is I mean, there's a lot to be left to be desired in the passing game. And obviously, like, he did not play well, but like one thing that you can say that last year that Jared Parker did well was add wrinkles to the running game. Like each week there was like a new wrinkle there. And that's something that Tommy Rees did a good job of as well. And I don't know if it's because of the opponent or whatever, but there were no different wrinkles in this game that added to it to stress them. And right now you don't have a consistent enough line and consistent enough play overall that you can't afford to be like, hey, we're just going to out execute you, because it's like they aren't executing at that level. They aren't. So you need to stress the defense in more ways. And I don't think they did that. I don't think they did that with the running game, in the passing game too. Right. But like, obviously, you can't win the games if you aren't explosive, throwing the football. And they have 1 20-yard gain. That's it. And that just, you can't win games. Like, literally NIU got 13 points at the beginning of the game because they had 3 explosives. Was the difference of the game.
Yeah, like the only touchdown they scored. And it's kind of funny how the coach is it's the whole thing. I mean, look, credit to the coach. Like, they obviously did a good job in the game.
How he's going on the victory tour right now?
Well, like the no luck needed
thing. He should be going.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, like, the no luck needed thing is funny. Like, the only touchdown they scored was a lucky play. I mean, it's objectively like he's not even looking.
I mean, he's selling it to be
for sure.
He's selling it to his team, whatever. But like, it was a super lucky play. Like, it was.
I mean, he's not even looking.
No,
he's throwing into two players. Ben Morrison messes it up. I mean,
and Ben Morrison definitely messed that up. And I think it's one of those things where there are plays that you can make as a defender where, you're wrong technically in what you're doing and your responsibility, but they let it slide because you made the play. Right. It's like, hey, I mean, when you were blitzing, you're supposed to go B gap there, but you went A because it just whatever. And then, but you made the play. So, I mean, I'm going to let it slide here, but it's like, if you're wrong, you better make the play.
Yeah.
right? And he was wrong and he didn't make the play. Like that was kind of essentially it there.
Yeah. We got a salute, Checky. So I'll say Checky here for the super sticker. Appreciate that, Checky, for being here. That's awesome. Got a lot of comments in the chat. Beefeater ND08 says, Greg and Jamie, you seem to be very pleasant gents. However, you are still more offensive than Notre Dame has been this year. I think he's making a joke. I don't think at our expense. I don't think he's taking a shot at us.
I don't think
It
he
kind
is,
of
but
it
I
kind of
don't get
reads.
it. I don't get it, but thanks. Hey,
It kind of reads like that. Maybe he is.
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Who knows?
Fine. Simkev says, I wonder if Denbrock being on the field instead of the booth matters at all. I don't think so. I don't think it matters. I just like, I just think like the opportunity to play well is always on the table. And this is kind of the thing too, like Marcus Freeman's talking about, like, first of all, I can't believe like I don't want to get too much into press conference comments. I really don't, because I just
no
feel
one
like
could react too harshly to any of that.
yeah. I just can't believe he goes up there and says, like, we have to learn to deal with success. It just you didn't have that much success. Like, you won a game. Like, we read our press clippings. Like, to me, I just think all that's kind of you need to prepare. Like, they need to me, the preparation piece goes more into the fall, like fall camp, than it does like the week before, because you just watch them and I just don't know what they're actually like really good at. Because like it'd be one thing if there were other aspects of the offense that were like clicking all the time, and it was just Riley Leonard missing throws or whatever it might be. Like they have errors, they have assignment errors. Like the wide receiver, they're missing blocks outside, like kind of on a regular basis, like on these screenplays. Like Jaden Thomas is missing blocks. He never misses blocks. Like he is like very reliable at this. There's been a moment when Chris Mitchell missed a block. There's been moments when Bo Collins missed a block. Like there's so much about the offense that is just kind of sloppy and the execution level isn't there. This is the thing that is most surprising to me, because I have always harped on this, and I harped on it last year about like everyone has a good plan. Everyone has good plan. Everyone has good schemes, right? They all do. They all work from kind of the same stuff, but being able to teach it and being able to get your guys able to execute at the level that you want them to, that they need to be successful against any team, against anyone, right? You blow a block against A&M, you blow a block. Like you blow a block against NIU, you blow a block. Like you got to be able to execute these things. They're not doing that. And that to me is where it's like, it's not just this week. It kind of goes back. Like you got to be able to execute at a higher level of this. If it's just the quarterback, then it's just the quarterback, right?
Yeah. Oh no. It's everything. It's
Right.
everything.
Go ahead.
But I mean, I will say that the part about handling success is like, I think I do think that there is truth to that. And I'm not mostly on offense, but I'm talking about the young guys on defense, because I think a lot of those guys were probably like feeling pretty good about like people sharing tweets about this great play that they made, or this is like, Adon Schuler's getting hyped from here, and then Snead is getting hyped from this, and Bowen, and like, I mean, those guys didn't play well. They were like, it was the young guys on defense, because like X Watts came to play. Like X Watts was great in the game. Like there are two key third downs where Howard Cross like dominated his guy, and they made the play because of Howard Cross. And I don't even think he's fully healthy right now, but like he still can like muster it up to get that. And I don't think that, if you look at it, I mean, Osbury played well in the second half, but he didn't really play well if you look at the whole game. Like he had some mistakes in the first half that were pretty bad. And like the linebackers in general, I think like, everybody's kind of hyping them up. Like, oh, people forgetting about Maris and, Bertrand saying that these guys are going to be better than them. I think maybe some of those young guys were reading that and thinking that, like, and I think that could be real. And then all of a sudden you get into a game, and they're running a wheel route, and you're not on top of things. You get a bad run fit here, and then it's like, man, they were just your whole first game, they dominated. Like, they really had, like, gave up a couple drives. That's it in the whole game, right? Like, on the road, whatever. So it's like, you a, a real team, a real SEC team, they gave up like 3 something yards per play. Like, yeah, they're thinking that they're hot stuff right now, right? And then they go in and they're thinking, hey, we're going to dominate NIU, and it's just like, well, NIU had a better game plan for them, and they couldn't. But there were plays to be made. There were plays to be made that guys did not make, and it was primarily the young guys. So I do think there is something to what he's saying about, like, those guys, specifically on defense. Like, offense is a different story because, yeah, you haven't done enough to do anything yet. Like, there's no one on the offense outside of Love and Price, really, right?
Yeah.
And Evans obviously went from last year or whatever, right? But, like, no one else on the offense has earned anything. But, like, that just, I think that was a thing for the defense. And I think, like, they were so on it with everything in that A&M game, and they just weren't in this game. They get guys who played fast in the A&M game were slow in this game, and it was because they played so, like, they were thinking, they weren't reacting. It was like what Freeman said about football versus football. Like, it's like they weren't playing the same, with reckless abandon they used to.
Well, I mean, you brought up a good point on Power Hour about playing different positions. I mean, you said 3 linebackers on the field. I mean, there are times they had 4 linebackers on the field. Like, I think if you could point to one thing where it was like the prep was bad specifically, it was they're not being ready for multiple looks when you're in your 4-4 defense. Because there were multiple times when it's like you're not getting lined up right. Like, they didn't know. Like, on the one, like, Dane Bluger put out yesterday, like, what is Notre Dame doing? Like, they had multiple tight ends in the game. They split out one of the tight ends into a slot position, and the only person to go out there is Ben Morrison. So what do?
Yeah.
They snap the ball and they throw a bubble, right?
Yeah.
And there's no one out there. So, like, they weren't ready for that. On the explosive play, they split out the running back. They sent out KVA. Like, I to this day, I don't know what coverage they were in or what. Like, it's very odd to be in a 4-4 with 2 safeties on the field and 1 corner.
Yeah.
You just don't see that very often. And look, they obviously were confused, right?
Well, I mean, yeah,
I don't know that KVA did the wrong thing, but Ben Morrison did not look comfortable in what he was doing. The middle of the field is completely wide open because Watts is playing the half on the other side of the field. It was not a very sound defense to be in. Go ahead.
Well, here's the other thing too, and this is what I'll say. Like, there's too much worry, especially in the first half. The second half, yeah, you want to save your timeouts for the end of the game, but, like, I really think, especially early on, and I don't care who you're playing, you have to take timeouts when you see something's wrong. There's no way the staff didn't see stuff was there. Take a timeout. Yeah. Like, take a timeout. It's not like at the end of a game and it's like you have no timeouts left. It's like, hey, it's first drive. You're not on it. You haven't seen that. And, like, I pointed this out, saying, guys, read the scouting report when I put out the Purdue scouting report, because it was like basically everything that was there was what happened in the game. What they did, they were who they are. But the Ontario Brown had 43 yards receiving last year. He had 43 yards receiving. All checkdowns. He averaged 2 yards a reception. Like, obviously the guy's fast. He can make people miss. He's physical, but it was all just like, hey, we're just getting rid of the ball here. He wasn't part of the offense, but in the first game, he had an explosive there. And so I guarantee you, and they off a screen, I guarantee you they had not seen him motion out to whatever, but it's part of the script. part of the opening stretch. And I know you don't want to take a timeout on the first series of the game, but you do it when you're like, hey, we don't know what the heck's going on here. And you see, like, there's too much of get it right. And I mean, I don't want to harp on the defense too much because it's like, yeah, the defense played well enough to win the game. It's obviously the offense stunk. They were,
I mean, we're talking about like their mistakes. And I think we said this on the post game. Like, we're going to talk about the defense in a way that like the errors that you're posting on Twitter right now, which are all legit, right? Like, these are mistakes, right? Like, Drake Bowen is taking a false read step, right? And he's not attacking the counter, right? And you've got Oben isn't fitting the way the D line is slanting like everyone else. No one's cutting around. We're talking about this results in a gain of 8 or a gain of 7.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking. Like, the mistakes that they're making, other than the one explosive play, right? The problem, they gave up 1 touchdown in the game, 9 field goals. And by the way, 9 points, 3 field goals. The last field goal is a 20, 30-yard drive, right? Where it's like, they got the ball at the 50. It's not like they drove down converted multiple, whatever. So the difference in bad games is very different what we're talking about. Like you said. And so look, the linebackers, they had a tough time with a lot of this stuff, but they also, I think they also made a bunch of plays that were able to get Notre Dame off the field, specifically Jaden Osbury, right? Yeah. And he had a good game. And in the second half, the defense had given up no points till the end.
They didn't give up points till till basically the beginning of the second quarter. They gave up points, and then they didn't give up points for 3 quarters, basically. So
36 seconds left in the game.
Yeah. So I mean, but I think that's a great point, though, Greg, that their mistakes didn't actually. You just kept them. That's what kept them from dominating. Instead of being like, hey, they were able to do enough. They just didn't play. They didn't play up to their standard, right? They didn't play up to their standard, and it's different. It's different on the offense. And I will say, because whatever. I don't know what's going to happen in this game going forward. At quarterback and stuff. I honestly don't. Right? Like, I do believe they're going to start Leonard in this game, and we'll see how it goes. And I think he could actually play really well in this game. Like, that could happen. He's played well enough in his career. Like, that is definitely, on the table. He could have an awesome game. Like, that could happen. But I also want to point out that, like, the reason that Notre Dame lost, and it's on him, but it's also on everybody else, is like the lack of execution across the board, because NIU's defense isn't a great defense by any means. They don't have a bunch of dudes that are going to the league. Maybe I'll have a couple guys who get a cup of coffee or whatever, but like, it's like all veterans. Everybody's back, basically. Like, it's guys who have played in the system for multiple years, who have it's like thousands upon thousands of snaps these guys have played together. So they were not going to beat themselves. So you have to out execute them and beat them. And that's what Notre Dame didn't do. They didn't do it at all. And they didn't stress them enough. Like, he's saying at the beginning, like, you have to make them think, and like, we never seen this before. Like, what did Notre Dame run that there was like, man, I'm not ready for this? They didn't run nothing in this game that was like that.
Yeah. Everything NIU expected is exactly what they got. Yeah. We've seen Riley Leonard play better than this. I think his entire 2022 was better than this.
Oh, way much better. Yeah.
Why? Why is it? Why, in your opinion, why do you think he is just completely? Why has he gone backwards as a player? Why can't they unlock whatever he was doing at Duke? Look, we can say what you want about people say, "Oh, he's a bad." Like his 20+ yard throw numbers at Duke in 22. They're as good as Jack Cohn's. His intermediate numbers are good enough to. It's not like this isn't projection. This isn't us saying like, "Oh, I'm sure he can." He's done it, right? Why is there such a great disconnect in your mind from what you've seen in the first couple of games here?
Well, I mean, he did have some clunker games throwing the ball. Like he's had that in his career, but I think the big thing is that in a lot of those games where he had it, he was able to run to overcome it, and that kind of like, bought them time and bought them chances and gave them chances to keep going, and that was what's missing. Yeah, to me, that's the big thing, is that like he's had games where like he's looked ugly throwing the ball, and then he kind of turns it around. Like, I mean, that Notre Dame game is a perfect example, right? Of like he was just had nothing. He was
in
just
in the beginning of the game,
the first 2.5 quarters, he was like nothing in the whole game. And obviously his legs took over, but he still like made that one throw in the fourth quarter that was like, he has not made that type of throw. The one where he, put it over Uyeyama dropping like, and it was, if he puts it inside, it's a pick. If he puts it too far, it's out. And it was like perfect. And obviously got yards after the catch. Was a big play. He just hasn't made those throws. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's like he talked about how it's like, well, bad feet, bad this, whatever. It's like, I mean, you really shouldn't have it at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not harping on mechanics every day for the quarterbacks. Like, that's not what the coaching staff does at this level, because they got too much stuff to worry about in terms of like, hey, this is what coverage you're going to see here, and this is the decisions you got to make, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like all that stuff. That's why there's those private quarterback coaches. Like, is like they work on all that stuff beforehand. So he shouldn't have that. I mean, obviously he did have that on some of that stuff, but like even on the same drive, he had the one where he dipped his shoulder, kind of changed his arm angle, and got it to Collins. Just kind of slipped the thing. Like, that was a heck of a throw. And I thought, you know what? The one that I thought was like, oh, it's almost a pick. The next one was a heck of a throw too, where it could only be to the outside. So I don't really know. I mean, if I had the answers, I mean, I'd probably be doing something different. Like, I don't know why that is like been that way, because he was, you pointed out his stuff on his intermediate struggles, right? He's 8 of 20 on intermediate throws, and it's 44.4%. There hasn't been drops. Like, he's just missed guys and has not delivered.
There's been the one drop from
the deep ball
from Greathouse.
Yeah. But he didn't have any, like, obviously he missed a wide open Greathouse in earlier
on the crosser.
On the crosser earlier in the game, right? And it's not like there's been like a ton of gimmies, but like I watched a ton of film before he's, when I knew that he was going to Notre Dame, and he was over 60% completions in his intermediate throws. Like, that wasn't not just his short stuff, like his intermediate stuff before. So I don't know why. It's just like, maybe there's not a comfort level dropping back because it's the new scheme, because it's a different line. And I don't know why, but it's obviously there's some kind of discomfort there that's causing it, because he just shouldn't be this bad. And maybe it's going to just even out. But obviously, like, when I think of, you can be a quarterback anywhere, right? Like, you can be anytime you're a quarterback at a big school, like, like, I don't know if you saw the thing with Peyton Thorne and Auburn, right? Where it's like, there people are sending them Venmo requests, like, give us money back, like because they lost this game against Cal. Which, get a life, people. Get those people out of here forever. Like, just go away. But like,
well, it's like not your money.
Yes, it's not your money. It's definitely not your money. And also, too, it's like, it's just like the same kind of thing. It's just like, I mean, I bet, Cleveland wants all their money back from Deshaun Watson, but they ain't getting
it. It's kind of, I mean, it kind of is their money. People donate to the fund, but kind of is their money,
I guess. But
they're not, no one's paying millions of dollars.
No, they're not.
Let's all get your check back for $10.
And also, too, but it's like, it's just, this is the thing, too. It's like, no one, I've never seen anyone say, like, hey, Dabo, you lost this game, give us the 10 million, like, it's just, they do it to the players. Like, come on, right? It's stupid. But anyways, the point is that when you're Riley Leonard and you have a rough game at Duke and you lose a game, okay, like, you get back up on the horse and it's the next game. It's okay, because if you go 8-4 at Duke, that's a heck of a season, right? That's a heck of a season. But at Notre Dame, when they're already, like, which was, obviously very, very premature, when they're already putting them in the playoff, like, I mean, any kind of failure is like, it's magnified. And it's like, literally, like, 2 days before I saw the thing about him, he was going to get a sponsorship with Dick's Sporting Goods, and then he gave the money to the O-line. It's like, man, what a great guy. Look at this. This is awesome. This is a feel-good story. Yeah. Now people are like, wow, why did Dick's Sporting Goods? Like, that's just that, but that is how it is when you're the quarterback at Notre Dame. And there's all the extra added pressure of, like, Notre Dame has had bad quarterback play in general, or average quarterback play for 30 years. Like, that's just kind of how it's been. They've had, obviously, some guys who've had, like, Brady Quinn had 2 great years. Jimmy Clausen had a great year. Sean Kaiser had the 1 great year. Ian Book, always underappreciated now when you look at it in hindsight. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of guys that were like, they're not being mentioned with, Montana and Rice and some of these other guys. They're just not, right? So there is that extra added pressure with it. So, I mean, that's the one thing that I'm the most interested in for this game is you got all this kind of thing, and there's all this, all the noise before telling you how great you are, and now it's like, hey, you suck. And okay, yeah, it's all funny, the whole thing with him and his mom sending you suck, whatever. But it's like, now he probably goes to, like, Rite Aid, and people are like giving him dirty looks or something, So how's he going to respond to that? Because there's some people that it's like, hey, I'm going to come out, and then, well, guess what? I'm just going to go out and respond, and I'm going to do it. And there's other people that it eats them alive, and that's it. So it takes a thick skin to be the quarterback at Notre Dame. It really does. I'm
more curious about how, like, well, I guess I'm curious about how Riley Leonard responds as well. That's a good point. I'm curious about how Denbrock responds, because clearly he doesn't have a good feel for, what's going on out there either, right? Like, I think that's part of it too. When I watch, it's like he's not really getting them into situations where it's like, oh, they're clearly comfortable with this. Like, there's a lot going on where there's, like, a discomfort there, and maybe there's, look, like I said on the post-game show or the morning after show, like, you get him in here and he'll tell us exactly why he called what he called. But just like a perfect example is the interception at the end, right? 2nd and 1, you want to take a shot, right? Okay, in a vacuum, fine. You call Mills concept against 3 high. That's what you call, right? It's going to be there, and if the quarterback reads the safety, getting out of the middle of the field and chasing Greathouse, then throw post, right? Throw post. but he's clearly not ready to execute that play. You haven't called that. That's the first post they've thrown all year. And they weren't ready to execute it. Clearly, right? Mitchell thinks he's that ball is going over the top, and Riley Leonard thinks that ball is going short, and he's throwing it flat. You know, and everyone's talking about Riley Leonard's banged up, and that he can't throw it because he's banged up. Then why are you calling the play?
Yeah,
that's like way out other people open. Yeah, but that's not why you call Mills. If you're calling a shot, then you're taking a shot and you throw the shot play. Like, unless they told him in the headset, like, hey, I'm calling this play. I want you to throw it to Greathouse, or I want you to throw the flat to Evans. Unless they specifically told him, don't throw the post in his headset, and he did it anyway. Well, then it's like, then you have a bigger problem. And I don't think that's what happened. I think he threw the route that they wanted him to throw, and it was just short, and it was bad. That's what I think happened. So to me, it's like, it's not so much like you want to take a shot, then take a shot. But like, the shots that have been working this year have been to Bo Collins. Throw him a shot, right? Give him a chance. That's what worked against Texas A&M. So to me, that's like, I'm very curious to see what Denbrock cooks up this week. What do you have in store? How are you going to get your offense playing in a way that maximizes your players? How are you going to unlock Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price?
Yeah.
These guys, they're playing at a very high level. Jadarian Price had 4 carries.
Yeah, that was just inexcusable.
It's just it's incredible, and look, I know Marcus Freeman, and there's some validity to the fact that, like, Jeremiah Love, he has the long run for touchdown. On the next drive, they give Price the ball, and he gets stopped short, and they have 2 incompletions, and they get 3 and out, right? Not a lot of plays. The next possession, you give Jeremiah Love the ball, he gets stopped for it's 3rd and 5, and they're off the field, and they obviously can't give anyone the ball at that point either, right? So there's always some validity to the fact that, like, hey, Notre Dame only ran 21 plays in the second half. Like, there just weren't a lot of plays to get anyone the ball, right? So I get that, but I just think there's got to be a
downs, right?
Right. So that there's some, but you got to be able to build an offense around your 2 best playmakers right now. It's clearly Love and Price. So I'm kind of curious to see how Mike Denbrock responds to all of this.
I think it's like, to your point, I think about that when Notre Dame was really struggling and they weren't finding what they wanted out of, the receivers, outside of, Michael Mayer in 2022, they all of a sudden started mixing in running 21 personnel.
Yeah.
And they hit on a bunch of big plays on it. Like, it worked. It worked a lot, actually. Like, yeah, and they only ran it like maybe 6 times in a game or something like that. But like, it was incredible how much. And the other thing is too, is like, teams were ready for it. And just, that was the thing. And then all of a sudden you build off, you start running wheels, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're ready for the wheel. So you start running an angle route. Like, you got to do this kind of stuff. And I mean, I know that I'm positive that Mike Denbrock's not going to come out and be like, hey, we're running the exact same stuff. Like, I know that's not going to happen in this game. But I do think, like, man, he needs to have a game where they're like, if he doesn't have confidence in like making those plays and like exploiting matchups, then yeah, that is a problem with the quarterback. And then you have to do something different. Cause I really do think like that's one of the things that they did was they were just like, hey, well, we have this dude and then we're matched up with this dude and forget it. It's over. Right. So it's like, I think like they're playing Purdue this game. They're starting a freshman corner. He's a talented kid, good athlete, but like, if you're not going at that guy, like, I don't even know what are we doing here? Like, I would think that guy's going to get targeted a lot, I would think that he's playing his second ever football game. Not just that, he like reclassified to be a freshman. So he's like jumped, he jumped the year too. So like that's a guy I would go after. Like, and you have to see all that. And I mean, I would look for all of that kind of stuff where, they moved their Mike linebacker was a defensive end last year. And they're going to blitz that guy a ton. But anytime you can think you can get that guy in coverage on a back, I mean, I'm doing it. Like I'm saying, hey, cover Jadarian Price, cover Jeremiah Love. Like you got to try to do that as much as possible. And I think that's the thing is that, like, I want to see them do more to attack those things. And also it's one of the reasons too why I think, like, yes, it is good to be like, you're going to run tackle over, you're going to run unbalanced lines, and you're going to do that kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, if you can bully people and just do that, great. But I just look at those Michigan in the last 2 games of the year, and they did it, and they did a ton of it. And it's teams that have played defense all year. They're going to do it. And still there was like poor fits. Like teams were down a gap a lot. Like, run it, especially too, because you don't even have to block it up perfect, because you just might hit a hole. Like, so I don't know. And it's easy to say for me when it's like they're not executing, and then you're like, hey, try all this stuff. But like, you might have to. I do think that even though, yes, it is a tough game in terms of they're going to play a team that is going to blitz the living heck out of them the whole game. They're going to play a ton of man coverage. But the other thing is, you kind of know what you're going to get. Like, they're like 70% man. Like, that's a lot. Like, so it's more than anyone, literally more than any other team in the country. So if you're going to get that, like, what are you going to do to exploit it? Like, it's a lot easier than it's like, hey, teams are running all of this and that, whatever. It's like, you got to be able to do it, and you've got to be able to exploit it. And if you can't exploit it with the passing game, then it could be a long day. Like, I really think that, like, that's going to be super important.
Raymond Harton says even the tight ends have aggressed. I don't know that the tight ends have aggressed per se. What I will say is Eli Raridan's not a good blocker.
He has not been a good blocker.
He has not been a good blocker ever since he returned from his ACL last year against, I guess, was it Louisville or Duke? I can't remember what his first action was. I think it was Louisville.
It was Louisville.
He's not a good blocker. There was the toss play on the interception drive. He is, and here's the thing. Sometimes, like, look, Cooper Flammang, he battles his butt off. Okay, he does. He tries very, very hard. If you give him a good situation, he will execute his responsibility. And when I say a good situation is on the toss play to Jadarian Price, where that gained, I don't know, maybe 8 yards, maybe it was.
Yeah, he made a really good block on that play. Yeah.
Who did?
Flammang.
Yeah. Yes. On the other side of that, you have a down block by Raridan, who completely whiffs. And in doing so, the linebacker is able to pursue, and Jadarian Price ends up making a miss, but it forces him to the sideline. And then he gets to the sideline.
Could have been a big play.
It could have been a house call, because if he cuts up, if he seals the linebacker, he's probably just going to get out of the way of some of the pursuers. Jadarian Price is going to put his foot in the ground, and there is nobody left if he can get through that traffic. He will be off to the races, and it's just like those are the kind of the little things where, like, NIU's missing none of those.
No, they're
you give them a down block.
Tight ends played
where
awesome.
you have a down block when you have leverage on the linebacker like that. They are sealing that player, and they are executing the play. And like, this isn't, Eli Raridan, not really young. You can't really look at him like he's been around. He's an experienced player
He's
at this
third year in
point.
the program. Yeah.
He's the third year in the program. Those are the kind of blocks where it's like, look, dude, you have leverage on him. He has to run towards you. It's the easiest block you can make. Is a down block like that, and he completely whiffs. So it's just like those are the kind of things where I look and I don't know that they've regressed because he's always not been a very good blocker. But I just feel like there's the progress isn't there. And they don't want to play Mitchell Evans at this point because of the injuries and that sort of thing. They're going to use him in the passing game. That's when it really hurts.
Yeah. I mean, they have really missed Evans.
Yeah.
They've really missed Evans. I think that is 100% clear. I mean, you just look at his 2 catches in the game. Like, those are not easy catches.
Yeah.
Like, those are, tough contested catches. And that is the kind of thing too that Leonard, if you have Mitchell Evans there, then I mean, I wouldn't even say Evans was open. He wasn't. Like, I mean, those were decent throws. They're pretty good ball placement. I'm just saying, like, you throw it to him because it's like, well, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
He's not open, but he's going to win this. Like, and right now, other than Bo Collins, I mean, I would say that's the guy that, and he's the only guy too that came back that you're like, man, this is like he was the guy that we ranked him as such. Like, he was a difference maker in the passing game. Like, they need him, and if they can't play him, in the run game either, because he's a good run blocker too. Like, that is a problem. So I don't know what. I mean, I imagine his snap count's going to grow.
For sure. It did. He went from 10 to 22 in this game.
And
so
I imagine like the next game is going to be like 30 to 40 or something. Like, it's probably going to be like that every week, right? But obviously the last thing you want is for him to, not be able to finish the season, because they really need him. But I mean, I think too, as they're kind of like finding their identity and kind of figuring stuff out, is like, man, they really need him. Like, he's and I think he will get better and better as the season goes along too. Like, as he's just like more recovered and stuff too. But they miss him a lot.
Yeah. So his role will grow. And growth is good. And if you want your business to grow with aid of a social of a media company, then you need to go with VSR Media. Founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh, VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at bsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. I think Notre Dame kind of missed Faison in this game, and I think they'll because look, he started for a reason, I think. And look, he is the type of guy that, especially if he can't play against Purdue, like, he is a problem against man coverage, right? He is very slippery. He is able to get open. He's always been sure-handed. Frankly, they miss him in the punt return game because Greathouse does not look comfortable at all. He does not look comfortable catching punts. He, to me, is someone who he will, unless it's a line drive right at him, he is going to just be fair catching it. He does not seem a threat back there for whatever reason. I'm actually pretty surprised by this because he did in high school. So I don't know what the deal is there, but he doesn't look good catching those punts. I think Faison, they miss him. They need someone who can make somebody miss in the open field. We know he can get vertical against teams, so he's someone there. What do you think about the usage of Jaden Harrison? I'm surprised they haven't really used him other than in the screen game. right? They ran a kind of a jet sweep with him as well. Where do you see what could be done with the skill set of Jaden Harrison in the passing game here?
Well, I mean, I think he's the vertical. He should be a vertical threat, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it should be. And then I think part of it is in this game too, right? Like they didn't like they played man on third down most of the time. They played man on third down, but they played more zone on first and second down. And then it's like kind of the thing with Great House is like, they took that shot because it was man on the nickel. But if you're maybe don't feel as good about taking that shot, just with, I mean, that the Leonard pass at the end's not probably giving them too much confidence about anything. But like, I just think that this would have been a tough game for him to kind of get in that thing. But I mean, this is a game that is definitely like, it should be a thing where you would think that this is a guy you want to have out against man. Like he can fly. He can really fly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm interested. There's the one play that was not a good the kick return that ended up being, 30 something yards or whatever, but it like, man, it did
In the beginning.
Yeah, it was like the second.
It was. Oh yeah. No, I know. It seemed like had he gone, I'm trying to recall this because I remember thinking it at the time, and I haven't really gone back to look at it because there's like a whole bunch of other problems. But I remember thinking at the time, man, if he goes left here, I feel like he's got a ton of room.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that like, yeah, that he's a guy that you want to see, but like, I mean, Mitchell obviously is a guy that you want to see them do that stuff too, because they're faster. They have guys with speed. They just haven't pushed the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And I get it, to try to play safe against A&M. I get that. But it also, there were chances to take shots and they didn't. Yeah. And I kind of wish that they had taken just two more shots against A&M just to kind of
okay. So yeah. Pete Nakos of On3 is reporting Riley Leonard injured his posterior labrum on his non-throwing shoulder Saturday's loss against Northern Illinois. Sources tell On3 that Leonard is expected to play on Saturday at Purdue. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, he was clear he hurt his shoulder.
Right.
His shoulder was hanging. Like, right. I mean, as someone who has hurt their shoulder a lot, like, it was clear he hurt his shoulder. I mean, I imagine he'll get shot up. That's just kind of what you do during that thing. But it's like,
but they're not running him.
If you can't run him, then I just think that he shouldn't play. You know what I mean? Like, that's me. I don't think he's good enough to make up for it. The added piece of him running that's the X factor in it all. And if he can't, then I don't know. Like, I just don't think that. I mean, I guess you can say there probably wouldn't run Angeli a lot if he plays, right? But like, at least would be an option. If it's not an option, I think he will. I think, in my opinion, he'll get shot up and run, and whatever. That's and run, and he'll tough it out because he's a tough kid. So that's what I think will probably happen.
Yeah, I think Don Schuler at quarterback, the Shark says. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like, he injured his posterior labrum. What does that mean? Like, there are degrees to this stuff, right? Like, I mean, he continued to play. They obviously stopped running him at that point. You know, you got him throwing. You got him throwing deep balls at the end of the game. Even given that information, why are you chucking the ball deep?
Well, no, but it's not as non-throwing. Like
right, but I'm just saying, like I don't. Well, I don't know. He threw it woefully short, so maybe I guess it doesn't matter. If he's out there, you got to do it. I'm trying to process everything right now. I think the problem is like the problem with lineup stuff, Jamie, and I agree with you, right? Like, because if you're playing him and you're not running him, then that means Purdue doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right. So like they're going to play him in a different kind of way. Play your healthy quarterback, right? Just play him. But at the same time, and this is the problem, we have no idea how Angeli has looked. We have no clue. Like we just don't. We haven't seen him.
We don't know. And the other thing is too is that like it's nice to say that like Angeli was lights out in the Oregon State game, and he was great in garbage time last year, right? Well, that Oregon State game, it was like a skeleton staff. They had like 4 of their top starters opt out of the game on defense. They didn't have it was you want to say like, hey, this is like, oh, that was better than NIU. It's like probably not when you take out 4 guys that are good players that are doing it compared to like, hey, all these guys have played and know what the heck's going on, right? So there's that part of it. And then the other thing is like it is a new offense for him too. And frankly, in the spring, we didn't get a ton. I mean, we did not get a ton of being able to see him, and in the fall. But when we did see him, he wasn't great. He
wasn't awesome.
He wasn't great. He certainly didn't do anything to make you think like, man, this has got to be a real competition. No, he didn't. Right? There's a reason why people were.
It wasn't Angeli.
Yeah, there's a reason why people were hyping up. People were hyping.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
My mic came.
There you go.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, and whatever. I say this again for the people that didn't hear it when we talked about it before. If Minchie and Carr if they weren't taking reps with the 2s like last week, then you can't put those guys in the game. Right? You can't. Like, you can't throw them and say, hey, by the way, you're gonna be like starting this week, unless they spend the whole week getting that one guy ready. That's the only way, because then you're setting those guys up to fail. You just are, especially on the road, first start against a team that blitzes heavy, all that kind of stuff. Like it's still a very young line. Like you are setting them up to fail. So it's not that those guys wouldn't be the long-term answer or whatever, but it's just that this would be the worst week to make that call for them. And frankly, too, even if you did it the next week, it's like just kind of how the schedule works out is like ND doesn't play a bad defense for a while. Like Miami of Ohio's got like a decent defense, guys. Like they're pretty decent. And I mean, at least on the level of NIU.
Yeah.
Probably better. And Louisville's got a real defense. I don't know. I mean, you want to give these guys in or whatever. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, it's going to be obviously a big mystery going into the game, what they do. But like, I just think that, like I said, the running part of it, it's critical to what Notre Dame needs to do on offense. And if they can't have that, then I think they really do have to look at the next option, which would be Angeli. And I don't know. We'll see. But also too, like, I don't know how Angeli was looking at practice the whole time too, but there's some dudes who just get out there and they ball.
Yeah.
And he's been good when he's gone out. So I don't know. We'll see.
There are dudes that just get out there and ball for sure. What I would say is it's just like it's so hard to say like, oh, this is what should happen. What's going on with my here? I'm gonna turn this off. It's so hard to say like this is what should happen with can you hear that? Can you hear that? Oh, okay. It's just so hard to say like, oh, this is what should happen with the lineup because we don't see any at practice. We don't see any prep. We don't see. I have not seen Angeli perform. I don't know anything about. And even if what people are telling me about how he's performed, like, yeah, there's something going on. Hold on, I'll be right back. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because I'm reading the comments from everyone there about like, wow, that's it's not a good situation. It isn't a good situation because if it takes away his ability to run, that changes everything. So I think that's I mean, that's why they pay these guys a lot of money. They gotta make these decisions, really, right? And the other thing is that you got to go into the game kind of knowing like, hey, this isn't working or this is working. And I would say if you look at the 2021 team, probably was lucky to only lose one game. I think that's probably that's extremely fair to say. Notre Dame's 2021 team was very lucky to only lose one game during the regular season, because Cone didn't play that well early on. The line was brutal, and I mean, if you look at that Virginia Tech game too, like that could have been a disaster. How that was kind of going out, and they benched Cone, and then Buckner came in and he was good. And then they said it was like, oh, the ankle. So that's why Buckner's not going back in. But it's like, if they didn't put Buckner back or Cone back in the game, they probably lose.
Yeah.
They probably lose. Right. And I mean, same kind of with that Toledo game too. There was all these different things that happened in those situations. So the point is you got to be fluid. You got to be fluid and you got to be able to like, hey, this is what we're making in the moment, and the guys got to rally around them, and no matter what. And that's just what it is.
It's just my audio is going to crap. Let me unplug it.
Yeah. So,
all right, I unplugged the other thing.
okay.
All right, so I should probably just end the show. I don't know what's going on with my audio right now. So we'll be back. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about everything. Maybe we'll have some new reporting on that front. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like what you heard, you don't like what you hear right now, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, so whatever it is we're going live. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.